Kristin, I saw your email today with that private exclusive listing you have, and it looks super cool. I wanted to see if I can just walk it and see it in person. So, is it Washington Square West?
It's Washington Square West. Mm-hmm. It is. We can't give the address because it is a private exclusive. It's an office exclusive, so it's specific just to Compass. I know, it's specific just to Compass right now. Reach out to us and we'll be happy to tell you.
Yeah, well, before we get into talking about it, why don't we just kind of go over what a private exclusive is?
Yeah, I'll let you do that part since I'll be doing most of the time.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what a private exclusive listing is, it's basically one that's not on the open market. And a seller might decide not to put it out on the open market for a number of reasons. I'll give you a couple examples. One would be if a seller has some work to do on the property and they want to kind of get a feel for what the market might bear for it. They might decide to kind of roll it out a little bit beforehand by giving one of us a private exclusive agreement where you're not accruing days on market, basically. Mm-hmm. So it's not pushed out, on Zillow and all the big websites. And the agent can take buyers by for private tours just to get an idea of what the buyer might think about it. And obviously they can accept an offer during that time as well. But it's just a way for a seller to test the market. If they were, let's just say they were doing some painting and some light repairs, but they didn't want to wait. They just wanted to get an early feel. It's a good way to test the market. So that's one example.
Yeah, for price.
And then another example is, for whatever reason, they just don't want a bunch of agents coming through with their buyers. It could be any number of reasons. I mean, they could be an elderly person that lives there and they just don't want all the traffic coming through.
Yeah.
Or they can have something really, really unique that particular agent needs to be there for and show all the time and really explain to the buyer's agent and the buyers, what they're dealing with and walk through with them. Mm-hmm. And then your listing, why don't you tell them why it's private? This one's private exclusive.
Yeah, so this one's private exclusive for the reasons basically that you mentioned. We're testing. It's a really unique one. So there are no comps. There's nothing to really, comp this property and come up with a price. So we came up with a price based on essentially what they bought it for a few years back, plus what they've put into it, plus what they have plans to kind of do with it. And we just sort of looked at some others and price per square foot, and we looked at a whole number of different things and came up with a price. But it's a little arbitrary because there's nothing like this. So this is a home. I actually sold it to the homeowner a couple years back. And when it hit the market, it was one of those, it was in Philadelphia Magazine. It was in Curbed. It was in every publication. Philadelphia Inquirer, I think, even picked it up. And it was such a unique property. It is it was built in 1829. Used to have, right in the middle of Washington Square West. I can't give the address, unfortunately, but reach out to us and we'll give it to you. But it used to have a little storefront, a little pharmacy in the front, and then the rest of the house, it actually covers two addresses. So it's the main street and then kind of the little street that's behind it. It's two addresses. It is super unique. The house had been in disrepair for years, probably decades. And so it was one of those homes in a really, really great neighborhood that everybody would walk by and had a story about, is it haunted? What's going on? What's happening? And when it hit the market a couple years ago, it was it became famous, basically. It was everywhere. And it had, I think there were 18 offers or something on it at that time. My buyers happened to get it. They won the offer, multiple offer. And they had every plan in the world to fix it up and renovate it and, restore it to its original grandeur and live in it. And honestly, it just became too overwhelming. It's historic, so it's historically certified. So that limits you a little bit on what you can do with the house when it's historically certified with the city. And it makes everything more expensive to do. Like the certain windows you have to have, the certain roof. There's so many different things you had to do. But they had the very best intentions, and it just kind of became something that was like, for the last few years, I've been meeting with them like every 6 months or so to say like, do you think you want to sell it, or do you think you're going to keep going on it? And finally they were just like waving the white flag. Like, I think we bit off more than we can chew, which is really bittersweet and really sad. And because the house had so much kind of like, I think, notoriety when it sold the last time around, they didn't want to put it on the open market right away. We may get there if we don't get an offer in this private exclusive phase, but for right now, I think they just kind of want to limit the number of showings, maybe a little bit, test the price since there are no comps, and just kind of see what they can get here. But it is very cool. It has such a cool history. And it's truly a time capsule. I don't know if you look through the photos, Bill. It's like all the hardware is original. All of the light fixtures are original. There are gas lantern lights outside on the exterior of this property. It has a cobblestone like walkway. I mean, it's straight out of 1829. It is really, really cool.
No, it looked cool. And I immediately started thinking of who do I know that I could send this to that would renovate it. But I'm trying to do the calculations in my head, and I want to walk it just to try to get an idea of to get a better idea of what I think it would cost to renovate something that big. Because I think it was close to like 4,000 square feet, 3,500.
It's about 3,500. The city, the city, if you look in public records, I think it actually says like 2,400 square feet, but it's not counting the other house that's behind it. So it's like 3,500 square feet altogether. We had floor plans done on it.
Wait, you're saying other house behind it? Is it?
It's two. It's actually
is it like
two.
An in-law suite or something?
No, they kind of went through.
They went street to street, so it was two houses, and they basically just broke
on a corner.
Through? Okay.
It's on a corner, and you can basically access it from the kind of bigger street, the main street, which had the storefront. So that looks from the front, it looks like a storefront with like really pretty like leaded glass windows around the front. But if you enter from the side, there are like 5 ways to enter this property. If you enter from the side, which is the little side street, you kind of end up in the kitchen. So there's kind of like there's a couple different ways to enter the it's really, really unique. So it's 2 houses essentially that are one, but they were like 2 trinities. So it's not like they're 2 giant houses. It was basically like 2 trinities that were made into kind of one house.
Okay. So were they both functioning? Was one functioning as a house and the other one was functioning as a storefront?
I think it was
house.
always together. I think they were always together, but I think the front room downstairs, like there's a lot of places like that throughout
like
the city.
A little boutique or something.
Yeah, it was like a little pharmacy in the front room. It's like when you go in, there's like 2 steps down and it's like a pharmacy in the front room, or it was. And then the rest of the house is just a house. But it has with the potential of having 6 bedrooms and 2.5 baths currently. And then the 4th floor is just a big, huge open space. So you could chop that up and make it into more rooms if you wanted, something like that. But yeah, it's interesting. I feel like the best use will be for an end user, just because I think it's going to take someone to really want that historic kind of a home, and they want to really put the time and the effort into like really preserving it and really making it period. I would be scared if a flipper got their hands on it and tried to
well, it's not really in flip condition. I mean, this is a renovation. You're down to the brick on the inside.
Yeah.
So it's not like you could just like throw some paint on it, know? So
no.
Whoever's doing it,
it's essentially
is basically
a shell.
Right. They're basically renovating the whole property and hopefully keeping some of the original woodwork and if there's any original tile, stuff like that.
Yeah.
But do you see the property like still using that storefront, or what do you do with that, you think?
No, I think that would be like your living room, family room kind of room. I think how I would live in it, I would enter from the side, on the side street. And then that would, you'd kind of walk in on the side. There's like a big marble fireplace in front of you. There's a sort of a dining room, kitchen off to your left. And then the storefront would be to your right. And that would be like, I would make that like the living room. So I would kind of enter from the side so that it feels not like a long bowling alley kind of, row
Right.
home. It would feel wide. And then the stairs are right in front of you when you would come in on the side. The stairs would be right in front of you. That's how I would kind of configure it.
Okay, so somebody that's looking for historic and wants to put their own kind of finishing touches. Well,
Yeah.
it needs more than finishing touches, but
It needs a lot more
when you
than
get to
finishing
the
touches.
finishing touches, put your own stamp on it. Try to keep it. I've seen some end users do some really cool stuff with tile. I mean, really,
Yeah.
to make it Philly and stuff like that. Like there's this one house on the 1700 block of Addison. It was actually a friend of Sheena's, and she sold her house. And like in the vestibule, when you first walk in, the little subway tile, the little, it was like there was the Liberty Bell was in there. Like in like
neat.
navy. Yeah, so many cool little things like that.
Oh, I love that.
That somebody can really, really do. But those historic properties, I mean, the hard part's like, well, there's the exteriors where the historic district gets on you. Like
Yeah.
you can't mess with the exterior.
And
like
the
you were saying,
exterior
windows
actually
and
is
stuff
where
like
they've
that.
spent the money. So the exterior is in pretty good
Okay.
shape. There's not much you have to do
so
there.
inside you could do what you want. And then if the rear exterior is not facing a main street, you could do some different stuff to it. But
Yeah.
if the rear of the home is facing, an actual street, then instead of like an alley or a driveway, then they have to do the same thing with the windows there. But if it's already done, I mean
that's the part they actually did
because
do.
not dealing with the historic, not dealing with the historic district's good.
Yeah.
Because that can't hold you up. Like
Definitely.
that's
And for
something-
this house,
that's
because
that's
it's
tricky.
a corner, you do have two big, sides of the house that face the street that you would have to contend with the historic district. It's not just like the front of a house. You have the whole side, which if you look at the second picture in the photos, it's like a huge, because that's like the two houses together. So it's really big.
Yeah.
They pretty much, because the first thing they did was they had to make it so that, vermin and rain and everything else was not getting into it. So they had to kind of shore it up. So the exterior is actually in really good shape. They put new windows in and that kind of thing, but the interior is what they kind of didn't get to. But we do have plans. We have actually two different sets of plans from two different architects, which we can share. And yeah, I mean, it's definitely... It's a once in a lifetime type of a property for someone. So
I wonder,
pretty
what
cool.
if we
I'm
did
excited.
something like this? What if we did something like gave a tour? I swear to God. Like what? I know that's what we do, and that's obvious, right? What if we just want to, because we can't talk about it. What if anybody that's listening that wants to do a tour, we just give them a tour. Maybe if they're not
Yeah.
even real buyers, like let's go take a look. We'll do a
totally.
walkthrough.
totally.
It's
If
almost
you're
like
interested, let us know. Yeah.
Yeah. You know what? If you listen this far, you're 14 minutes in and you're listening to two jabronis talk about a house that we can't give you the address or pictures or anything, and you want to go look at it, we're going to take you to go look at it. Because we could show it to you in person.
Yep.
We can't, it's just legally, because it's a private exclusive, we're limited on how much details you can't make a private listing and then blast it all over.
Right.
So we're
right.
talking
No
generally
sign.
about
We can't
the property.
put a sign outside.
Yeah, no sign
Yeah.
out front. Mm-hmm. So because they want to discourage you from having privates, not our company, but like just the real estate industry in general.
Yeah.
And it's not like we even push them, but it's just like sometimes sellers, they don't want it blasted.
Well,
right
that's
now,
that's the case with these folks.
especially when you're dealing with this property that was in the news a few years ago, and maybe right back in, like they're not ready for all that.
They're not. That's
excitement.
exactly it.
And what you were talking about in the beginning, and why some people decide not to go through with these projects, is because sometimes people don't, I'm not saying it's them, but people don't realize how much work is involved. I mean, I had a guy who was a builder, but did mostly, 1,500 square feet renovations, 1,000 square feet renovations, and then we wind up. He wind up buying something that was 5,000 square feet in the same neighborhood, and it's 5 times the amount of materials.
Yeah.
And he knew that going in. I mean, he knew that, but it's it can be overwhelming, especially if it's your first time taking on a project that big. It's not for everybody. And I would say it took my client from the time he purchased it to the time he actually sold it I think it was over 2 years. It's a long time, so if it's not something that you do regularly, it can be it can really, it just might be too much,
It is. Yeah, it is. And he's now married, and his wife has a house that I sold to her in South Philly, a really great house. And they've been really comfortable there, and they've been loving it. And they're kind of like, I just don't know. I don't know that it's worth, doing this. So that's where they are right now, and we'll see what happens. But it's a really, really neat one, and I'm really proud to represent it. And I'm excited about it. I think the photos are so awesome. I had the photographer go out, and he was like, oh, here's a funny thing. So, Tom, my photographer, Tom, that I use all the time. Shout out to Tom Duncan. He's amazing. So he went out to shoot it, and I was like, I wrote when I scheduled the photos, I was like, just call me because I want to talk about this one before you go out there and think it's just a regular property. And when he called me, I was like, look, I don't want you taking typical real estate shots from the corner of the room. Let's make this cinematic. Let's make this cool. Let's make it moody. Have shadows. It's a interesting house. So he was loving it. He thought it was so great. And I was like, just do the Matterport tour as well, because I feel like when people are looking at the photos, they're not going to get the configuration of the house. So the Matterport tour, for anybody listening, is like a 3D tour where you can walk yourself through it. So he did the Matterport tour. He sent it to me, and he goes, oh, wait, before you post the Matterport tour, I have to adjust it. I just noticed. And he sent me a thing that was himself in one of the windows, his reflection, from the tour, from the camera.
Sure.
And he was like, oh God, I got to blur myself out of this. And I was like, no, leave it in. Cause it looks like it's haunted. I mean, it looks like a haunted house. And it's like him. If you look really carefully, it's like his reflection in the window. I was like, leave it in. But anyway.
So the difference between like a Matterport tour and a regular just video tour. Regular video is just a video camera going through the house, and you just watch it, just like a little movie. Well, the 3D Matterport tour is you actually control it with your mouse, and you can click on where you want to go, what rooms you want to do. You want to look up, look down, you want to turn around. It's all controlled by you. So if you want to get an idea what that looks like, just go on YouTube and type in Matterport video, and you'll see examples. It's really cool. Yeah. But it's a good way to be able to just walk through the property. And
some people call it a dollhouse tour because it looks the first comes out with the different floors.
You can go to the dollhouse view where it zooms out and it shows you the house in a 3D, almost hologram looking thing.
Yeah.
But no, seriously, if anybody's listening right now, still 19 minutes in, and you want to go to this property, I swear I'll take you. Kristin's going away next week. I will go. I'll show you around. If Kristin's in the area, she'll come.
Yeah.
And we'll walk it. And then you can buy me a beer. There's going to be a lot of restaurants around.
A lot of restaurants around. Good restaurants around. I love it.
Well, this is a first to talk about a property we can't give the address.
I know.
So in the show notes, there'll be a link. Well, I'll just type it in the questionnaire form. Write in the questionnaire form or email the show. It's Home Collective. It's what is it? What's our email address?
Home Collective
HH
at Gmail.
Yeah, right.
That's what you did.
HomeCollectiveHH@gmail.com, or just go into show notes, click the feedback,
or DM us
questionnaire
on Instagram.
Form. Mm-hmm. We're around. You can find us.
You can find us.
We're not hard to find. All right. Well, Kristin, this coffee break's been a lot of fun, but we got to get back to work.
We do. And you mentioned that I'm actually going to be away next week. I have a real estate conference in Denver, but you'll be back hopefully with a fun episode without me, which I'll be looking forward to listening to.
I got a past client buddy. I don't want to give it away. He's going to come on and tell a little story of a trip he recently took. It's going to be fun. But there's a little teaser for the two people
I
that are
can't
still
wait to hear
listening
it.
20 minutes in. All right, Kristen, I will have fun next week. I'll see you the week after that. So I'll see you in happy hour in 2 weeks.
I will see you in happy hour in 2 weeks. See ya.
Bye.
Bye.